All right, let's get into this Tyler the Creator thing because he's facing a lot of criticism on X, aka Twitter. So let's go over this article. If you have been an online fan of music for the past 15 years, you have probably seen more than a few Tyler the Creator tweets, social media posts, and other statements about his fan base. He definitely appreciates their support, but when he complains about them for whatever reason, they are sometimes quick to clap back, especially this week. The Hawthorne native recently liked a tweet from a user criticizing his white fans for their shallow and disrespectful engagement with black art. Tyler's fan base hates black music despite Tyler himself having a very deep love and appreciation for it. Guy has Charlie Wilson, Erykah Badu, DJ Drama, etc. collaborations, and they still refuse to engage with black art on any meaningful level. Very cannibalistic. The tweet reads, "This emerged at around the same time as Tyler the Creator's tribute to the legendary and recently deceased D'Angelo, presumably as a response to the more ignorant reactions to his posts concerning the soul icon's impact." Of course, this relatively vague statement led to a lot of debate and also a lot of criticism for the former Odd Future frontman, supposedly fueling this discrepancy himself. Users on Twitter brought up, it's funny how everybody still mentions X as Twitter, brought up old statements that they interpreted as possibly anti-black, the edgy content of early OF days, and other controversies such as selling merch with blackface. Tyler himself hasn't publicly responded to any of this at press time. The discussion continues to grow on Twitter and stuff like that, right? The beautiful thing about music, hip-hop, whatever genre, just music in general, is it brings people together. And I'm a perfect example of that because, when 50 Cent went to go perform in my country in Kosovo, Serbians who tried to commit mass genocide towards us joined us for that one night with no issues to enjoy 50 Cent's concert. This is a black artist that was born in Southside Jamaica, Queens, who never probably even kept up with the Serbia-Kosovo War in 1998, right? Probably didn't think he had anything that he would ever have an impact on that at all. I'm not saying that he solved the war and, everything is kumbaya, but him going there, he has no ties to that. Him going there and making everybody come together and not fight each other for that one night of his performance shows that music is something that just brings a lot of people together. And hip-hop being the dominant genre has brought a lot of races together. I feel like it's actually reduced the race gap in America drastically. Like hip-hop is one of the genres, one of the pieces of culture and art form that has really brought people together the most. You could say it's probably the most, period. Regardless, I say all that to say, with music being so inclusive, like I talked about earlier in the podcast, it gets frustrating when, especially when I drop these clips, right? And you see people say, "You're a white culture vulture." One guy called me the devil. It's insane. Like, they don't know my history in hip hop. They don't know how much I've dedicated my life to this, how much I respect the culture, how much I know about the history and respect it. But because they see me react to a Jim Jones and Tony Yayo clip and kind of give a backstory on it and criticize Jim Jones for attacking Tony Yayo for essentially almost no reason, people, hey, you're this, you're white, you're a culture vulture, stay out of black people business, stuff like that. This is how I view it, right? If you're somebody who is white speaking on hip hop, know your history and respect the culture, respect the craft. That's not my only issue. So I can see with Tyler the Creator liking certain tweets, like liking that tweet, I don't know, right? To say that artists are kind of like white people are kind of like Tyler's fan base hates black music, despite Tyler the Creator himself having a very deep love. And his white fan base doesn't really engage with black music, right? That's the assumption. We don't know. We don't know what part of his white fan base engages with a lot of black music or doesn't engage with black music at all and just likes Tyler the Creator. This is the criticism of Eminem a lot, right? That his white fan base, all they care about is Eminem and they don't listen to any other hip hop rappers and they say he's the best of all time. I have an issue with that. I have a huge issue with that. You cannot go into a hip hop debate. You cannot even talk hip hop if you only listen to one fucking artist. Like, for example, Eminem stans, not fans, but the stans, the crazy ones. All they fucking listen to is Eminem. And they think he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. They could care less about any other history in hip hop. They could care less about any other hip hop artist. They just view Eminem as the best. They like D12. They like Shady Records, which is 50 Cent. That's it. That's it. They don't give a shit about anything outside of that. And that's a problem. That I don't like. You know, if somebody says, hey, Eminem's the best, you better be listening to a bunch of artists, because there's a lot of artists in hip hop that are fucking amazing. It's not just Eminem. But that's a whole, it ties into this, right? Because Tyler, the Creator, could have fans that just listen to him and they say everything else is corny and whack, whether it's black, white, whatever skin color. There are fans like that where they'll just listen to that specific artist of that genre and they don't give a fuck about anything else. That's unfortunate. I think music is beautiful. There's a lot of different things in music that people can enjoy. If you enjoy Tyler, the Creator, I'm sure there's other versions of Tyler, the Creator that you will enjoy. I don't know. I know cannibalistic is kind of a hard, some people just don't want to fuck with other music. There's nothing wrong with that, If I was just listening to 50 Cent, that's it. That's my only favorite artist. But I'm not, obviously if I'm not doing this podcast, hip hop stuff and all this hip hop content, hey, what's the issue with that? If I say, hey, I only rock with 50 Cent, I don't really fuck with any other hip hop. Let's just say I say that, for example. Then it's like, what's the issue with that? As long as I'm not disrespecting any other, artist or genre, then there should be no issue. But I think this person is insinuating that these people are disrespecting, black artists as well, and not really knowing the history and the lineage and all that stuff. And I agree with that, man. If you're somebody who's going to speak on anything, not just hip hop music, but anything, and you want to voice your opinion on that stuff, you better know the history of it, because you have to know the roots of this stuff, of where things started. And, for debate purposes as well, and just for respect factor, man. You have to know the history of things. That shows that you respect this craft. I'll never forget, I was at a Japanese restaurant, and it's here in Atlanta. I forget what it was called, man. Terrible with names. But regardless, I was at a Japanese restaurant, and I had been in this Japanese restaurant like 3 times in like probably 2 months, maybe more. Because I was kind of seeing this Japanese girl, so we would go, to a lot of Japanese, restaurants. And I remember seeing this dish, and it had like this interesting kind of description, because some of these dishes kind of like had a little historical, which is really cool. I've never seen it before, but they had like these dishes, and they had kind of like a little bit of history around the dish. And our waiter was black, right? Japanese restaurant, black waiter. I had no issue with it. And I actually ended up asking the waiter, hey, do you know more about this dish, like the history of this? Because it's really interesting. The guy broke down like so much shit that I can't even fucking remember off the top of my head, right? Just broke down everything. It had to do with this happening in this war, and people had to survive off these certain ingredients, and this is how this dish came. Just insane stuff. Never in a fucking split second of my mind did I ever say, oh, this guy is black, so I'm not going to listen to you because you have no idea what you're talking about because you're black. I want to go listen to a Japanese guy tell me about this stuff. Never. That never crossed my mind. Because wake up, alarm here. You're in 2025. You have every means to study the history of something. I assumed, hey, he knows his shit, man. He's breaking it down for me. He's throwing timelines in there, which I told him, I was like, I love timelines. So he was telling me, hey, 1783, this happened, just all kinds of shit that I wish I could remember. This is like over a year ago, though. It's like a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2 years ago. I don't know, around there. But he was literally breaking down things for me, and never in my mind did it cross, hey, this guy is black. He doesn't know shit about, Japanese culture. Never crossed my mind. Not once. Because, hey, there's people that literally, imagine criticizing Gordon Ramsay, right? He's from the UK, and he Kitchen Nightmares, right? That show where he criticizes, restaurants that are running poorly and not making money. He literally went to New Orleans, and he criticized a black-owned restaurant that had soul food, that they were making soul food. They were making bad soul food. And he was straight up telling me, hey, you're making bad soul food. Imagine if the owner was like, you're British. You have no idea what you're talking about. Go talk about your own dishes. This is a world-renowned chef who's actually visited every place where these foods stem from, every ingredient he's ever cooked with. He knows everything. He's a top world Michelin star chef. But there will literally be people that would be like, oh, you shouldn't speak on that because you're not from that culture, regardless of him being a top world renowned chef, you know. And I'm not saying I'm a top world renowned, you know, news reporter, but, or hip hopper or whatever you want to call me, right? But I do know my history for the most part. To say that I, you know, don't know shit about anything, but that's, you know, that's what I'm saying. It's very tricky in a lot of this stuff. I can see why people get upset because there's this Dame Dash kind of put that culture vulture word out and kind of just made this kind of stigma that like, hey, white people just take from this culture and that's all they do. When no, man, white people have actually purchased the bulk of hip hop music. A lot of black artists got super filthy rich because white people got into it and decided to purchase these artist CDs. And I don't know, I just don't view it white and black. You know, I think the people that just view things white and black like that, definitely, you know, they're looking at things from an old school lens that I don't view things like that, man, when it comes to really anything. If you're knowledgeable, then I listen to you. And I'm like, okay, this person knows what they're talking about. Or at least they seem they know what they're talking about because I'm not knowledgeable in every single field, right? I can just only assume. But I never, if somebody's going there and talking about, you know, the history of Apple, iPhone, or tech, let's just say the history of video games, right? Because a lot of it started in, you know, China and Japan, mainly Japanese, right? I would never assume if a black guy was talking about, you know, or a Mexican guy, or I don't know, Indian was talking about, you know, video game history. I want to be like, no, I want to hear this from a Japanese guy. He would know better. Like, no, just, hey, if you know your history, it's well researched, well documented. Cool, man. It doesn't matter, man. And anybody, that's the thing too. Anybody can speak on this stuff. Like, if I've had comments where like, why are you speaking on this stuff, man? You know, leave that to other people, and you shouldn't be speaking on this type of stuff. And I'm like, dude, you can. I literally respond and say, hey, you can create your own content, speak on it. Like, what's the problem? There's nobody stopping you. It is what it is, man. I think this black, white. I think people that speak and voice their opinion heavily about their favorite artist, if they don't listen to other artists in that genre, they cannot do that. I think that's where I draw the line where I'm like, you're only listening to one artist and you're claiming they're the best ever. And I run into a lot of Eminem stands like that. I don't want to throw it just to Eminem stands because there's a lot of stands of artists like Kanye West stands. They just listen to fucking Kanye West and they think he's the greatest thing ever. But there's other artists out there. You know, there's if you're going to speak on a genre of music or a specific category of music, then know that field pretty well and then voice your opinion, you know. But that's my issue with it. I think, and definitely get into other music, man. I encourage a lot there's something for everyone out there, man. I encourage you guys, man. If you're somebody who's like just listening to a specific set of artists, try to listen to as much as you can. I even need to do that more because I'll sometimes get in this box where I'm just listening to 2000s music and I'm like, nah, man, I need to start spreading out. Let me listen more to 80s. Let me listen to more to 2010s. You know, I'll get stuck in the 2000s a lot because I just love that era of music from every artist that came out in the 2000s, from rock to, R&B to pop to hip hop. The 2000s to me was like the perfect, you know, decade of music. But interesting nonetheless, man. I think Tyler, the Creator, has been controversial regardless when it comes to, you know, stuff that he said online. He said a lot of crazy stuff online, but that's kind of his personality. People kind of expect it from him. But, you know, complaining about your own fan base, I don't know, man. It's kind of, you know, hey, man, your fans are who they are. If you don't like them, I don't know what to tell you, man. They're the ones that made you rich and famous. If you don't like them, don't make music anymore or just shift, you know, what you're doing completely. I don't know what to tell you. But, that's it for the Tyler Creator thing.